Welcome to Schrödinger's Chat, the podcast where I explore the real science behind the biggest questions in the universe, as well as some of the quirkier science we encounter every day. I'm Anna, a sixth form physics student with a lot of curiosity and a passion for understanding how the world works. From the smallest particles to the largest galaxies, join me as we uncover the mysteries and wonders of the universe and explore how physics shapes the world around us. Hello, welcome back. In today's episode, we are going to be looking at light, but not in the usual way. Before we get started, a reminder to leave a review or comment if you like this podcast, and check out the podcast Instagram page, Schrödinger's Chat Podcast on Instagram. Here I post all sorts from extra bits relating to the episodes, STEM book recommendations, and various other general nerdy science stuff. If you like the podcast, you will definitely enjoy some of that stuff, so do go and have a look. Now, light is great. It's beautiful, it's a symbol of hope and positivity and knowledge and imagination. And of course, we need light here on Earth to survive. Plants need it, and animals need to eat plants, and other animals need to eat those animals, so by extension, us humans need light to survive. However, you can have too much of a good thing, especially when that thing is created by humans. Today, we are looking at the impacts of artificial light on the environment and on our ability to observe the cosmos, and how that affects us on Earth. This is the dark side of light. I don't know about you, but for me, one of the greatest joys in life is seeing the stars. Honestly, when I look up at the sky, I just get this overwhelming sense of wonder. I mean, even seeing just a few stars feels special. Now, being able to see the odd star or two shouldn't be such a remarkable event, but unfortunately these days, not until you are significantly far away from a city can you start to see the full wonder of the night sky, even on clear nights. Especially in a city, it is rare that you can spot anything other than the moon, or perhaps if you're lucky, a couple of faint constellations. Throughout history, we as humans have always acknowledged the importance of observing the universe, whether it's the religious significance that many ancient cultures associated with celestial objects and events, or how vital stars were to sailors and travellers all over the world who used them to navigate. It is definitely clear that observing the universe is inherently special and important to us. Now, I find that there's a lot of discussion about global warming, as there should be, and we have all heard about air and water pollution, again, as we should. Don't get me wrong, these are incredibly important matters and are perhaps more crucial to our immediate situation in terms of saving this beautiful planet and all of its inhabitants that we share it with. However, light pollution is often overlooked, and I think that's probably because it's more difficult for people to notice that light could be a bad thing. But preserving the night's darkness is far more important than you perhaps might think. So to start us off, let's define what we're talking about here. Light pollution is light from man-made sources that brightens the night sky. And there are 4 types of light pollution: sky glow, clutter, light trespass, and glare. Sky glow is the one mainly responsible for obscuring the cosmos. It occurs via light scattering, which is where dust particles and molecules of air collide with light that is shining into the sky. This causes the light to be scattered further into the sky, creating a dome of light which brightens the sky over urban areas. This dome is what gives many cities an incredible bright glow even late at night. I personally encounter this type of light pollution the most. In fact, it's even a bit eerie and strange. When it's winter and it's supposed to be really dark in the evening here in the Northern Hemisphere, it's a strange experience to feel like your surroundings are darker and it's late in the evening. But when you look up at the sky, it's not actually pitch black or dark blue, but a surprisingly bright grey colour. It feels really unnatural. The next type of pollution is clutter. This is the excessive grouping of light sources, where multiple sources are in close proximity to one another. For example, densely placed streetlights along quiet residential roads, or lots of intensely bright billboards in the same area. Think Times Square in New York. Next, there's light trespass. I think this could be one of the most universally noticeable types of light pollution, and refers to the presence of light in unnecessary places, or light spilling into areas that are not intended to be lit. A common example of this is shop lights being left on even long after the shops have closed and contributing to light on high streets, or security lights spilling off the property they are supposed to be illuminating. I'm sure you've all seen shops with bright lights and neon signs on long after they've closed for the day. And this is not only bad because of light pollution, but it's also just uneco-friendly. It's a complete waste of electricity. Why advertise your shop when no one can even buy anything from it at that moment, and you're just costing yourself more money in electricity bills? The last type is glare, which is brightness that causes us discomfort to look at, and is usually horizontal rays of light shining out from an artificial source. The main situation glare can be experienced is probably when driving, where some cars' lights are excessively bright. An example of this would be if you left full beam headlights on unnecessarily and blinded other drivers and stuff. To be honest, I think in that case, you being a light pollutant is probably the least of your worries, because you're just going to be annoying other drivers. So we know the different types of light pollution, but is there a more quantitative way we can measure it? One of the most common methods used to measure light pollution is the Bortle scale. The Bortle scale is a classification system ranging from Class 1, which indicates an excellent dark sky, to Class 9, which is a bright inner city sky. It allows us to measure the pollution levels in specific locations, and also acts as a way to indicate how observable celestial objects are to astronomers, both professional and amateur. Let's get on to the impacts of light pollution now. How can light be bad? Well, one of the most alarming impacts of excess artificial light is its effects on the natural world. I'm sure you've all heard about not looking at blue light and screens before bed, as it disrupts your sleep. More specifically, the hormone melatonin, which controls our circadian rhythms, or our body's sleep-wake cycle, is affected by light. It is released in response to darkness, so melatonin levels rise in the evening to promote sleepiness, and decrease in the morning when exposed to light. Therefore, blue light at bedtime could suppress the release of melatonin, making it much harder for you to fall asleep, as your body thinks it's daylight and decreases melatonin release to try and keep you alert. So you can see how just a small amount of light from a screen can significantly impact us humans and our circadian rhythms. And in a similar way, light pollution disrupts the circadian rhythms of animals. Arguably, light being present at the right times is even more important to animals than to us just wanting a good night's sleep. In fact, many species directly rely on light to govern various aspects of their lives. For example, corals rely on moonlight to coordinate mating rituals. However, with excess artificial light, their ability to judge the brightness and presence of the moon is affected, and this makes it difficult for them to sense the nighttime and therefore sense opportune moments to mate. So for them, their existence and continuation as a species is directly threatened by light pollution, as if they find it more difficult to mate, clearly the population numbers will decrease and perhaps even threaten their existence over a long period of time. This is particularly sad, as corals are already threatened by global warming and polluted oceans, and unfortunately the lowest common denominator here is humans. Another extremely threatened animal community is insects. Okay, I know insects aren't always as cuddly or cute as other animals, but they are incredibly important to ecosystems. Whilst many consider insects to be a nuisance, they are vital pollinators, and yes, it's not just bees who are responsible for pollinating plants. Pollinating insects help the growth of plants, which feed herbivorous animals, and help us to cultivate crops to feed us humans. As well as this, insects make up the diets of many predators across almost all classes of animals. In mammals, moles, shrews, bats, hedgehogs all eat insects, Then in reptiles and amphibians, lizards, snakes, frogs all eat insects. And clearly so many birds eat insects: swallows, owls, finches, woodpeckers, and those are just a few from each class of animal. Not to forget insects who eat other insects too. So how are the seemingly omnipresent insects affected by light? After all, there's not a corner of the earth where insects don't exist, so it's quite difficult to imagine them being threatened. Well, many insects rely on light for nighttime navigation and hunting. With excess light, they end up being drawn to artificial sources such as streetlights. This deadly draw to light sources that insects and other animals experience earn this phenomenon the name the fatal attraction. It's fatal because insects often die from the heat of the lights or by wasting energy flying around them all night. It also lures them away from engaging in activities vital for survival, like hunting, mating, egg laying, and also just making them easy prey when they're all congregated around one light for a long period of time. You can then see how this could have significant ripple effects on wider ecosystems. Even species who are already facing the prospect of extinction are further threatened by light pollution's impacts. For example, turtles who are already at risk from plastic waste and water pollution are sadly additionally affected by artificial light. Turtle hatchlings that have been laid in the sand navigate towards the ocean by observing and moving away from the dark silhouette of land. However, with so many artificial lights in inhabited coastal areas, they become disorientated and lose the ability to navigate towards the ocean. This makes it harder for them to ever reach the ocean, and also makes them far more vulnerable to predators like birds, who may try to catch them on the way to the ocean as they spend longer exposed on the beach. Beaches located near brightly lit roads or buildings are also dangerous, as the dazzling lights lure the hatchlings towards these dangerous areas. Many turtles are killed on roads near coastal areas as they stray away from the ocean and the beach because of their attraction to the streetlights. For an already challenged species, it is a shame that yet another human-related issue further threatens our existence. Whilst animals are far more seriously affected by excess artificial light, humans are not unscathed by the negative impacts of this pollution. Now, we've already spoken about how artificial and excess light can affect our sleep patterns by affecting the release of sleep hormones. But sleep can also be disturbed by light pollution from outside. Unless you have blackout blinds, in a city it is nearly impossible to achieve a completely dark room at night, with artificial sources from outside often being left on through the night and spilling onto properties. Light pollution affects our world from our ecosystems and endangered species to our own sleep cycles. The effect on the natural world is by far the most urgent and alarming issue brought about by light pollution. And later in this episode, we will discuss some of the ways to prevent or at least reduce these effects. But next, we are going to take a look at how artificial light affects astronomy and physics. Due to light pollution, it is becoming increasingly difficult to observe the universe and accurately measure astronomical phenomena and objects. For example, in astronomical spectroscopy, data collected can be significantly influenced by even very small levels of excess artificial light, as it can reduce the clarity of light from the objects that are being measured. Nowadays, some of the largest areas of research in physics, such as the nature of dark matter and dark energy, and the universe's expansion, rely on observations of distant galaxies and light phenomena. For instance, researching and recording cosmic microwave background radiation and redshift provides the most useful data available for understanding the origins of the universe. In fact, these two phenomena are the best pieces of evidence we have so far for the Big Bang, and help us understand the expansion of the universe. However, recording and discovering more about the universe relies on our ability to observe those interstellar objects and events. For example, astronomers observed the explosions of white dwarf stars in order to measure the expansion of the universe. These white dwarf star measurements were also partly responsible for the discovery of dark energy, one of the most exciting frontiers of physics research today. With so many vital areas of research relying on astronomical data, the ability to observe the night sky is clearly crucial to the future of physics discovery, another reason as to why light pollution is so harmful. From all of this, it is easy to see how it is imperative that we find ways to reduce light pollution. As per usual, while some measures we could take rely on the cooperation of large organisations, governments and local authorities, there are many small ways we can help that could collectively make a big difference. I think this is so important, especially when many solutions are actually so simple and quick. Something as simple as turning lights off at night in empty office buildings and shops could make a huge difference to a local area, and therefore to a local ecosystem. Not to mention the fact that it would save a lot of businesses a lot of money to not have lights on 24/7. Now, clearly there are situations where light must be used at night for safety, mainly street lights or security lights. However, the type of light we use can be changed to have the least possible impact. Using the far more energy efficient LED lights is one way to do this, and only using warm-toned lights, as opposed to bright white or blue tones, can also significantly help. Another incredibly simple way to reduce light trespass and glare would be to make small changes to the designs of lights. For example, outdoor lighting sources can be fitted with shades that direct the light towards the ground or the road to only where they need to illuminate. This would massively reduce spilling of light into unwanted areas, and possibly help reduce the fatal attraction for insects by making the light more subtle. Lowering the height of outdoor lighting would also contribute to the decrease of light trespass, making sure the light is only focused on the pavements and roads and not just scattering into the sky above. Looking ahead, it is unrealistic to completely scrap all artificial light sources at night, even though natural light conditions would be the best for wildlife and astronomical observation. I think a reasonable compromise would be moving towards reducing the quantity of artificial sources, changing the types of light we use to be less harsh, and reducing the light trespass from sources that are necessary. As so often is the case, this pollution is a direct result of humans' treatment of the planet, and if we want to preserve the precious and delicate natural world, as well as continue being able to research and appreciate the beauty of the night sky, we must address light pollution. The nights are dark for a reason, and we have to protect that. In fact, to see and enjoy the light, we need to have the darkness. Well, that's all for today. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. I know today was a slightly more serious episode, but the environment is so important, and discussing the intersection of physics and the environment is also very important to me. If you have enjoyed this episode, please go and leave a review or a comment, and if you want more Schrödinger's Chat related content, go and check out the Instagram account, Schrödinger's Chat Podcast on Instagram. As always, thank you so much for listening. I'll catch you in the next episode. But until then, stay curious and don't forget how beautiful night can be when we let it be dark. Bye!